Hello, ladies and gentlemen, crypto deep divers. Welcome back to Weekly Crypto. Today, I'm going to talk about EOS. So, there's a research coming out stating that EOS is not a blockchain, it's a glorified cloud computing service. Before we get into that, just to remind everybody that Hirevibes is having an airdrop on November 5th. Snapshot will be on November 4th. Make sure you transfer your EOS out of the exchange to the EOS account. Also, Betdice is having a lucky draw every day. You have to use your Scatter wallet to play this game. This is free, so make sure you check it out. And also, there's a payout. You have to check it out periodically. The payout is basically every hour. And you can stake your token to earn additional rewards. So make sure you can go to your balance by balance and then claim your payout, and then that will be automatically go to your EOS account. If you're interested, you can click the link below. That will help out my channel. Also, Trybe is having an airdrop. So airdrop day will be December 11th. So you can click the link below and check it out. EOSBET is they already have dividends, so you can claim your dividends, and you can click the link below as well if you're interested. Before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out the upcoming airdrop giveaway, hard fork or ICO or token swap. Also, you can follow me on Twitter as well. So let's get into it. So the research, this research is by consensus. Actually, consensus commission benchmarking of EOS, and here are the results. So a blockchain testing company claimed they find something quite shocking. So EOS, a blockchain protocol that was worth about 4 billion a few months ago, may not actually be a blockchain. So this is a new experiment benchmarking from benchmarking firm Whiteblock. They conclude that the EOS token and its brand market is essentially a cloud service for computation and is built on entirely centralized premise. And also, it lacks some of the blockchain most fundamental aspect like immutability. And also, this test was commissioned by the major blockchain entity Consensus. They established a matrix for benchmarking base layer blockchain protocol. And they did I think they did some practical testing and experiment in a controlled laboratory setting. And they basically have a replicate the whole blockchain of EOS and do a testing. So they build a replicate for the EOS and then they will destroy it after that. And then EOS different from Ethereum and blockchain in different ways because especially in how who decide like who should be the one to validate the block and earn the rewards. So the block producer, there's only 21 block producer currently right now, and they are suspecting there may be like colluding things going on because the block producer can fold with one another. So if you go to the folding chart right now, and you can see this is just one wallet folding all this block producer. This is a big whale wallet, and it can easily control the folds. The folds is easily controlled by some of the whales. The top producer, and also this is the same wallet. Just you can see this one wallet. They fold a whole bunch of block producer. And also you can see the ranking in here, EOS Wahoo and Big Finance, all this. I'm not sure if the whale fold them in or well, I don't think the individual investor folding the EOS Wahoo. I'm suspecting that. And unlike proof of work blockchain like Bitcoin, you can basically mine Bitcoin because you can buy an ASIC mining machine and you can mine, anybody can mine Bitcoin, but EOS, you cannot mine EOS at all because only the block producer control the EOS ecosystem. And you can even mine Ethereum using the GPU graphics, the machine. So you can mine Bitcoin and Ethereum, but you cannot even mine EOS at all. And also, during those elections, each EOS token is a one-to-one vote, right? So each EOS token, you have one vote, meaning that if you have tons of EOS, your votes will weigh a lot more than than a person whose wallet has only a few EOS token. So to conduct this experience, White Block run a replica EOS, and they claim this worked the very same way as the real thing. So it run exactly the same software. The block producer within the White Block environment perform the same function a block producer that would perform in the mainnet. This is what they claim. And this is a control test environment. They conflict the network conditions between this node, and also they emanate real-world performance, and then automate their process and actions, and then they measure the performance of the blockchain, and then they began testing their copy of EOS blockchain in September. The test talks about 2 months in an isolated environment. And so basically the results come back stating that describe EOS as a more of a network that provide promises for computational resources stored in a black box for user to get access. And even more damning is say that the entire EOS system is built on a flawed centralized model. So EOS is not a blockchain, rather a distributed homogeneous database management system. A clear distinction in their transactions are not cryptographically validated. And also EOS block producer are highly centralized, and user can only access the network using block producer as intermediaries, and block producer a single point of failure for the entire system. I think they make a very serious statement in this. You can say that the EOS block producers are very highly centralized because you only have 21 block producers, and compared to Liz or ARC, I talked about that in my previous video. Like I talk about Liz probably has 2,000 delegate. This is just delegate is similar to miners or block producer. ARC has around over 700 delegate, or you can also call them miners or delegate. Those are the people to maintain the network. So you can see list around 2,000, and then you have ARC have 700, and in Cardano they plan to have over 1,000 mining pool that they are going to implement in next year Q1 2019. So if for EOS, they only have 21 active block producer. They have a whole bunch of, I think, around 30 standby producer. And then you can scroll down to the list. They have almost only 100 block producer in total, including the standby and some other block producer candidate and all that. So compared to other network or blockchain, they are a little bit they are more centralized than a lot of other projects. So EOS is not exactly fast and could be controlled by cartel. So a large chunk of paper dedicated to proving that there's no proper protocol for preventing block producer from colluding to maintain their roles as proper block producer, with little protection against bad actors forming cartel to crash the entire network. I mean, this could be true too, because you only have 21 block producer, and they can colluding and then maintain their role as block producer because they can vote one another, and this is like a cartel. So this is only this group of people to become part of the block producer, stuff like that. I mean, this could happen because there's only 21 active block producer, and then maybe around 30 standby block producer. And And also they talk about the report also indicate EOS suffered from consensus failure with no Byzantine fault tolerance, leaving the network open to being controlled by colluding members. Also, conceptually, it is impossible for EOS to implement Byzantine fault tolerance. A true Byzantine fault tolerances would not be susceptible to cartel forming as in system, but cartel are easily formed in EOS, therefore negating an effort to claim Byzantine fault tolerance. And also the research note that the primary threat to EOS integrity is SIM-by attack. Basically, the people I think the hacker initials the spam in the network, and DDoS attack basically initials so many spam in the network that make the network so busy, and then eventually it has a network failure. Basically spamming the network with a whole bunch of spam message or whatever, and it make the network so busy and become a DDoS attack, and then eventually the network come to a standstill or come to a halt. This is what it does in a lot of hacking, like for example the Eva Delta. They also get a DDoS attack. Eva Delta is no longer exist, but if you still remember, I think last year they have a DDoS attack, and a lot of people I think some people lose their money in Eva Delta because they have a DDoS attack last year, and also besides the DDoS attack, they divert the website to a hacker website. So during that time, if you do transaction and direct to a hacker website, you most likely you already lose some money. And also there's a large vulnerability in the system, as a fraudulent user are essentially able to create malicious account much faster than the block producer able to come to a consensus. And also they warn that the high level of centralization that exists in EOS network has given the block producer tremendous power. I talked about that in my previous video. The block producer has huge power compared to some other network, because you can freeze account, you can reverse the transaction, stuff like that. And also the report talking about block producer do not actually process transactions based on consensus algorithm, instead confirming transaction in a mechanical fashion with no formal verification of the validity of the transaction being processed. And then a white block benchmark revealed the amount of transaction to be processed by EOS is basically lower than initially that they claim, and it never exceeding 250 transactions per second with the optimal settings like zero latency or packet loss and all that. And also the maximum transaction per second in EOS is 4,000, right? But the EOS white paper, in a perfect scenario, they can process millions of transactions per second. But during the test in the real world situation, I mean, this is not a real world situation, you're still in a testing environment, and then the performance dropped to 50 transactions per second. And for Ethereum, it's 20 transactions per second, and Bitcoin is only 7. So so white block also saying that EOS doesn't use cryptography, and basically EOS store all the data related to transactions in a kind of table designed by Danera called a chain base. So when EOS network confirm transaction, white block just claim the block producer are simply cross-referencing new transactional data against the table rather than confirming if those transactions are legit with cryptography. And also the firm stating that EOS transaction only happen due to block producer updating the data stored in underlying chain base rather than using cryptography to verify the changes of the underlying blockchain. So all this action operate in an environment that's basically they're just saying that EOS do not use cryptography for validation of contract and transactions. And basically, this is like a centralized cloud computing architecture without the fundamentals components of the blockchain or peer-to-peer network. So basically, you have having a network participant validate transaction just by checking a special table as consequences because it just allow the developers to undo some of the transaction and that can be reversed by block producer. So indeed, there's some cases there's a reverse transaction and frozen account. I think earlier on they have some reverse transaction and frozen account. I mean, this is a little bit. I think for frozen accounts and reverse transaction, I think the block producer has in this thing I think has too much power. So basically, you undo the history related to the block and all that, and so this is so the argument is stating that because of the ability, you can undo history, and it has a direct conflict. So it has a direct conflict with the immutability. So that's mean let's see where we. So that mean with the you have direct conflict with the essential definition what can be considered blockchain because the fundamental of blockchain is immutability of the data, right? But then if you can undo history, that is a conflict of the what we consider a definition of a blockchain. So, and then EOS Steps developer they make a they comment that white block interpretation how EOS validate transactions was particularly weird, and the sources explain chain base is just a method of storing real-time information, as in this case folder of files, in this case EOS store data pertinent to the transaction chain base, and then we replace in a central location. And I think there's right now there's a whole bunch of controversial on that, even in Reddit community, and they so but I think you have to take into consideration whoever wrote this article maybe have conflict of interest as well, right? And so here talking about. So here's another thing. Chain-based are really meant to optimize EOS performance, and they allows EOS to store data in RAM and then use to produce blocks quickly. This would suggest that EOS is actually using cryptography after all, contradicting white block's conclusion. And another thing for consensus, which commissioned white block to do this research, their consensus is heavily invested in the Ethereum blockchain ecosystem. So this is some conflict of interest when they pay somebody white block to do the research, and yet they are heavily invested in the Ethereum blockchain, and Ethereum is EOS is a competitor for EOS. EOS is a competitor of Ethereum. So there's a conflict of interest right there. So, and another thing is after Block 1 launch, EOS Mainnet, Everpedia, the co-founder of the Wikipedia, they moved to EOS. So, I mean, there's a lot of controversial on this right now, even in Reddit community right now, about this argument, whether EOS is a blockchain or not. Let me know what you think. Do you think EOS is a blockchain, or EOS is just a glorified cloud computing service? Right now in Reddit community, they have controversial. They have a heated debate right now. I mean, for EOS is highly centralized right now at a certain point, but there's a lot of ecosystem. Even Neo is highly centralized at the point. I mean, you cannot just say they are highly centralized. They are not considered as a blockchain. So please comment below. What do you think about whether EOS is a blockchain or not? Please comment below. I would like to hear from you. That will be interesting. We can start the discussions right now. So if you find this video helpful, please smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also share with your friends. Also please comment below. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out the upcoming airdrop token swap giveaway, half or ICO. Also, you can follow me on Twitter as well. And remember, crypto deep divers, we the people take control of our money. Stay wise, stay safe, peace. I'm not a financial advisor. Investing in ICO or cryptocurrency has inherent risk. Please use a due diligence.